Between the two of them, the inside of Coates, Parker gets too heavily involved. And that's Whitehead and Coates. We are hitting the streets tonight for round 3 of the Virtual Reality Racing Club World Touring Car Championship, but it's not quite the circuit you're expecting, because due to a last-minute unexpected change, due to some force majeure, it meant that we've now switched from what was originally going to be the Surfers Paradise circuit in Australia to an equally great street circuit in motorsport history, the incredible Long Beach circuit on the streets of California, ready to get going tonight once again. Well, good evening, everybody. It's Scott Woodwiss here, actually riding solo tonight because sadly no Becky our Prix here tonight as well. She's had unexpected, she's not feeling too well tonight, unfortunately, so first of all, best wishes to Becky and hope she gets well soon, and fingers crossed we see her and hear her back in the commentary box very, very soon in this series. So it's just me tonight to guide you through all of the action, and as you mentioned, it is the Long Beach circuit on the streets of California, where we've seen racing on these streets since about 1975, when it used to be around the Formula One World Championship, and the circuit was barely much longer than what we had now, but slightly different layout. Some portions of the circuit have always remained the same. As you can see, we are 3 rounds deep now into the championship. We started at Brands Hatch just a couple of weeks ago. Then we went to Monza for some antics last time last week in Italy. Now, of course, we're here at Long Beach after that last-minute unforeseen change. And then we go into the rest of the season afterwards, going forward week by week. So we do another European double-header with Portimao in Portugal, followed by Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. Then we go to our next international circuit, which is Interlagos in Brazil. That's then followed by Germany and the Nürburgring on the Grand Prix circuit. And we finish once again overseas at Japan and at the incredible Suzuka circuit to round off the season right at the beginning of September. As you can see, this World Touring Car Championship is very much rear-wheel drive BMW versus front-wheel drive Audi. And if Monza anything to go by, this could be another circuit where potentially Audis might have the edge, given that these slower, smaller corners could be an edge, particularly if there's some bigger curbs around this circuit as well. Moving forwards into how the championship looks after 2 events, and Jack Smith, even though he didn't take a victory, now goes into the event tied on points, 88 each with Scott Bugner, who himself and Andy Carroll took a victory each for Team Carbug and 2 wins for Audi, which means they're now tied on points at the top. Oliver Gibson has found himself in 3rd in the points, so it's now 7 between the top 3 in the mix, with a tie at the top as well. Chris Blakey has driven himself up into 4th in the points, from Lee Pearcey in the top 5. Then Andy Carroll, who was nominated driver of the event, which we'll get to in a second, was 6th. Kelly Press is 7th. Had Jack Dickerson, Jamie Page, and Jay Warren, who wasn't available at Monza, but we hopefully believe he is back tonight, fingers crossed, in that Laser Tools BMW. 11th backwards, Thomas Potter, who had a sub standing for him at Brands Hatch, was certainly in the mix at Monza. Even got himself a front row start at one point, but had some misfortunes throughout the way. John Jones is ahead of Rich Hayden, the man behind VRRC. Then it's Catherine Potter, Sam Walton, Connor Potter, John Wilkie, and Nathan Smith to round out the 18 cars. And Nathan didn't make it to the start of last round at Monza, and neither did Sam Walton sadly, but hopefully again we've got them back for tonight's action at Long Beach. So that's the championship table. Of course, this is all in support of Race Against Dementia, and stupid should go and check them out. It's a very worthy cause, and of course the championship supports them in all its activities, so if you can support them, even donate to them, please do so if you can. Well, looking back at the previous round, it was pretty much Audi domination. It was said before the round that the high curbs and the big chicanes of Monza were going to favour the Audis over the BMWs. You couldn't really ride those curbs just as well. It's almost a clean domination for the Audis across the board here, because Scott Bugner took the most points from the round, so he's technically the round winner. Andy Carroll was second after a couple of exceptional drives through the field in both races, and Jack Smith, the championship leader, was third best in the points. And driver of the weekend, as picked post-event, was indeed Andy Carroll for an exceptional drive-through to get second place in race 1, and then an amazing drive-through to take the lead, benefiting from some of the early couple of lap shenanigans to pick his way through and get himself into the lead, which he would hold until the checkered flag. So congratulations to him for all their efforts. So Long Beach then, this incredible circuit. The circuit we're using here has been in use since 2017. Of course, it mainly hosts IndyCar and the IMSA Championship on top of that, and it is 1.968 miles in length, or 3.167 kilometres. It used to be a slightly shorter circuit when it came to IndyCars, but until then, the circuit layout was a little bit more different. In 1975, when they first started hosting races around here, particularly Formula 1, the pit straight used to be pretty much a street across from where the back straight is currently now on Ocean Boulevard, but they still kept the likes of Shoreline Drive, the Indy left corner through Bridgestone, that long arcing right-hander on what's now the pit straight, the left-hander at Toyota that takes them round the fountain, back around again through Pine Avenue, and back onto another few circuits as well, through Tech 8 turn, down Pine Avenue, turning right onto Seaside Way, back through Firestone turn, Indy left, the tight head, which is going to test a lot of cars, putting on full opposite lock, and then down Shoreline Drive again to complete another lap. Now, as it was such a last-minute change, we don't quite have a hot lap, as the original hot lap was set for Surfers Paradise, so we can essentially pretty much go straight into qualifying for this one to see how the drivers are getting used to this last-minute change of circuit. Here they are on track now, and there is about roughly 30.5 minutes left in qualifying to go. Of course, no one's set a proper time just yet, so we're straight into the action. And first couple of lap times coming. These will be just banker lap times to kind of get themselves into the mix and just to lay down a benchmark for them to start running towards. But maybe I'm sure we can do a couple of hot laps or one or two onboards throughout this session to give you an idea of what it's like to drive a touring car around here. You don't really see much touring car racing happen around Long Beach really these days, unless you get possibly a support championship to IMSA or a one-make series. They used to have the old school celebrity series that raced around Long Beach, and all a bunch of different celebrities in one-make cars. It used to be quite a staple of the Long Beach weekend, particularly on IndyCar events. I'm not quite sure they do that anymore, but it was always quite a fun thing to see, watching a bunch of celebrity drivers, some of whom may have done some track driving, most certainly hadn't, trying to handle something very simple like a Scion or a Toyota or something along those lines around the streets of Long Beach, and not always getting it right, shall we say. But if it does still exist, I haven't seen it recently, or I haven't seen it publicised, which is a shame if that's the case. But now we look forward to this qualifying session where this circuit doesn't have massive amounts of curbs, but it might well be a circuit where, again, it's a little bit stop-start. The rear-wheel drive will certainly help traction zones where the rear-wheel drive BMWs will have a better run off the corners. But typically front-wheel drive corners tend to have better turn into corners much better and understeer out on the exit. So this could be quite a back and forth here. We'll have to see how things play out. Thomas Potter's on a quick lap here as he heads his way down off of Bridgestone towards the left-hander at Toyota, and then works his way out underneath the O'Reilly Parts Bridge, and have this sort of little fountain here which they work their way around. It's almost a bit of a roundabout they work their way through. They flick left and then through this double right-hander that will take them down towards Tech 8 turn. Lots of corners here where they're right up against the wall, using all the circuit available to them and a little more. But there for that corner, heading down the straight towards Tech 8 turn. A little odd is that there's no real curb or wall on the inside. It's kind of marking out the edge, the inside of the circuit to try and clip. Out of Tech 8 turn, they sprint down Pine Avenue towards the right-hander at the end of that straight, and then you come down Seaside Way, flat out stretch down here, all the way underneath the bridges and up towards this Firestone turn, which is a big stop here. 90-degree right-hander. This winds you back through one of the old school sections of this circuit, now through the Indy left, which is almost a very long arcing left-hander. You immediately then, as you turn off of that, have to flick all the way right on the steering lock, wind it 180 degrees through the hairpin, back onto Shoreline Drive, and then you sprint underneath the Long Beach Bridge, and back to the start-finish line, which is just before the curve. Across the line they go, and the first couple of flying laps are coming in. I have to say, it's looking pretty close at the top, because you've got Jack Smith ahead of Thomas Potter. And that is only about what? That's about a tenth of a second between the two. So Jack Smith He's been a perennial winner in this VRRC server, not just in touring cars previously, but also he was a rather dominant racer and champion in the World GT Challenge. As we ride on board with Jack now, he's typically our chauffeur for hot laps. Let's see if we can go for a hot lap with him here as he turns his way in. This is probably the part where he turns into the pit lane and aborts the lap, but carries on this time. So up through the gears, up through third, into fourth, back through once again. He'll come across the line. He won't improve his time this time by. He does do a 121.922, which if he'd set that as his best lap, it would have still put him fourth, which is impressive. So through the long right-hander of Bridgestone, off the pit straight, then you come down towards this big braking zone at Toyota corner, flick left, there's a little bit of curb on the inside, that could favour the Audis with some of the bigger curbs here. Then you turn left, all the way around right around the Dolphin Fountain, back left again, and a couple of other tight right-handers here. It's slightly off camber as you come into the second part here over the curb, as you turn onto the straight, and of course we're a little bit behind Connor Potter by the looks of things. Now actually backs off the lap, so I figured that might be the case. He'd be on a hot lap, but then halfway through back off because he's been compromised. So he has now decided to go again, but we'll stay with him as he comes down towards Tech 8 turn. Very tight inside here. This section here is one of the widest points that you'll find on Long Beach. There's lots of space to try and move the car off to the left-hand side. It really tightens up on the exit here. It's a very open entry, very tight, compressed exit. It's not the first time I've seen cars turn into there in real life, both at IndyCar and in IMSA, where they've gone ahead, just turned a little bit too late and clipped the wall on the outside, and that's either their race severely compromised or completely done for the day. Just weaving from side to side to get a bit more temperature and pressure into the tyres down towards the right-hander at Firestone turn. Lots of curbs and ripple strips on the inside. This long arcing left-hander over the cross hatchings of the car park. And again, full opposite lock here, full lock all the way around the 180 degrees. Back on the power again, grabs second for a little bit extra traction. And this is where Jack's now going to start to push forwards and go on another push lap here. He is still ahead by about a tenth of a second. And actually, in fact, Oliver Gibson is only about 200ths of a second behind. So the top three very evenly matched by roughly around about a tenth of a second, covering the first three positions. Then you have to look back to Scott Bugden, who is best of the Audis on a 121.999, and then you get to the 122s where it's about 4/10 covering 5th down to 8th between Andy Carroll, Rich Hayden, Lee Pearcey and Chris Blakey. So both of the Audis in the top 5 for car bug racing. As we see Thomas Potter actually, whilst we're watching Jack Smith, has gone even quicker, so he goes to provisional pole. He puts to the 121.323, and that was by setting the fastest middle sector of anyone in the session. But Jack Smith is responding, so we'll stay on board with Jack here. He set a purple first sector. He is up in sector 1. He's going to try and get a nice clean run here, just goes all the way to the edge of the wall, back up through the gears, 3rd, 4th, up into 5th gear. He'll reach top gear now. And we'll see what kind of speed he can reach. He's up past 200 and about 10 kilometers an hour. Punches back down through the sequential gearbox, through 3rd gear. And we'll see what his second sector's like as he turns in through Indy left. A little bit of second bite of the apex. He's on a personal best. It's not the fastest second sector that was set by Potter on his lap. Took 2 bites at the exit apex as well. Hugs it right to the outside wall. He'll go back to the inside as it curves around across the line. Is it better than 121.3? Yes, it is. 121.220. So that is now another new pole time. Got a bit of a back and forth going on here between Jack Smith and Thomas Potter. And Potter now starting to wake up a little bit here. Of course, he missed the first event. He had one of his, I think it was Caden, I think was his name, was, if I've got that incorrect, forgive me. But he had one of his fellow kind of racers take his place, and therefore his car scored half points for that weekend. So that was Thomas came back at Monza, put the car on the front row of the grid. As Potter's going even faster now, he sets the fastest 3rd sector of anybody, but has not. Well, he has improved his time, but he's now 7/1000ths of a second off pole position. So 2 miles of Long Beach street circuit and there's 7/1000ths of a second separating the top 2. This is the man in 3rd who now finds himself 3.5 tenths off pole position. Oliver Gibson turns his way onto Seaside Way, and with about 6 minutes to go in the session, there is still an opportunity for him to get a little bit closer. Nobody else outside the top 4 has managed to go sub 122, so a bit of more pace to find for some drivers. As Jack Smith responds, he goes fastest in sector 2. Now, it depends on his exit from sector 3 out onto the final corner. If he can go any quicker, he's got 121.220 to beat with his own personal time. Goes across the line. Wow. Okay, that's an incredible time. If that sticks, that's a 121.163. Goodness me, that's about almost a second clear. That's astonishing. Jack Smith has put a 121.163 in. I was thinking that's a glitch, because that is a sensational lap. Goodness me. Jack Smith has absolutely torn up the timesheet. That was probably going to put the fright on just about everybody else, and I don't know what's gone on here, but it's a BMW fracas down at the exit of the first of those two right-handers. So whatever lap Jack was on to try and improve, that's been severely compromised is a bit of an understatement, I think, because that lap was completely unintentionally ruined by the three cars that were having their own little... I don't know what was going on there between the three of them. They managed to clear themselves quite quickly. I'm sure a quick press of the escape button was all they needed. Scott Bugner is still fourth, but he's now got an astonishing amount of time to try and find. And yeah, I'm still staggered by that time. 121.163. That's yeah, that's pretty astonishing. And actually, in fact, actually, I'm going to have to confess, I'm being stupid because everyone else was doing 121. He just went a little bit quicker, did a quarter about a tenth. So anyone that's possibly listening there thinking, what on earth is Scott on about? I didn't read the times properly, but it's been a long day, so forgive me. So in fact, it's not by a second or so, it's by a tenth. So because I'm being daft, here's a tenth or so from Jack Smith to Thomas Potter. Goodness me, it's not the worst thing I've done on commentary. So Jack Smith then, he's only in 10th pole by a tenth, not by a second. He's not the Superman that I thought he was. He's quick, but maybe not as quick as that to be a second clear. So let's reiterate that again and refresh and pretend the last 2 or 3 minutes didn't happen. So Jack Smith is fastest on a 121.163. That is about half a tenth or so, rather than a second and a bit, half a tenth or so ahead of Thomas Potter. So not that much time to make up. I looked at the times and thought 121. Oh no, I've made a mistake. Thomas Potter second. Then it's Oliver Gibson in third. Scott Bugner in fourth. Those are the four drivers still that have gone sub 122. The rest of it now goes Chris Blakey in fifth quickest, Andy Carroll sixth, Rich Hayden 7th, and then Leah Piercy in 8th. And the rest of the times in the top 10 sees Jack Dickerson on the 124.1 and John Jones at a 124.2. So it's very fine margins around this Long Beach street circuit. There goes Rich Hayden, who is across the line to see if he can improve on his time. Best is 122.4 and that lap is a 123.8, so he's lost time in all three sectors, essentially. He's lost time in all three of them, and not even a personal best, but I'm sure if he can go again with a couple of minutes to go, he'll try and find some more time on a clean lap, if he can find it. And as I mentioned, this circuit used to be a lot shorter. If I look at how the layout used to be quite short back in the year 2000. But no, they went to this... Yeah, the shortest lap they had was back in 1990, from 1992 to 1998, which was they would turn off before you turn left at Toyota, you turned right instead. You went a right left, couple more right-handers on top of that. Then you had a little sort of left right chicane at Michelob that took them back onto Seaside Way, and the rest of the circuit is completely unchanged. It was only in 1999 when they used this little extended section which turned them left and right around the fountain and back to those double right-handers. So in actual fact, that extra section has been in use. I've learned something every day. It's been in use since 1999 when they turn left and back around the fountain. Been around for a lot longer than I thought, and the current layout, of course, came into use in 2017. Although when you said about 2015, 2016, it was pretty much as it was there. So the difference was that they took away the option to turn right, just going on to Tech 8 turn, which is just towards the end of the pit straight. I'm rambling, but we'll get back onto the action here. Now, Jack Smith on this current lap at the moment. This is Chris Blakey we're looking at here on a personal best in sector 1. So we switch to Jack Smith, who is not going any quicker. So we'll go back to Chris, who he is doing a personal best in sectors 1 and 2. And if he's just drifted around that hairpin, very neat little rear-wheel drive drift as he swung his way around the hairpin. Across the line he goes, and he improved his time. Or no, he was a fraction off, because I think maybe the slide he had going through the final hairpin probably lost him a bit of time. Jack Smith, meanwhile, has done the fastest second sector of anybody. So we'll see if he can go even faster. Now, if he can go under sub 121, that would be quite impressive. He comes across the line. What's the lap time? No, 121.2. So he lost time, not just in sector 1, but in sector 3 as well. Now, he's on a final flying lap, so if he's going to make it happen and go even quicker, he's got one more chance to do so as he hits the brakes and turns left through Toyota, hugs the wall on the exit, back around the fountain, break in a straight line, just curve round, flick right, flick left. Back to this double right apex right-hander. Back on board with Jack. Get to see championship leader at work. using the curb, again, right up against the wall, using plenty of the circuit. That's the mark of a good driver, using all the road available to them. Right up against the wall as you turn in. Got to be careful not to turn in too early, because that wall on the inside will catch you out any day of the week. If you just take a fraction too early, or even a fraction too late, can send you in the outside wall, particularly at this corner here, onto Seaside Way. Back up through the gears again, approaching some 210 kilometres an hour. Holding in 5th, down to 3rd. Is it in? So he's down in sector 1. I don't know by how much, but he can't do too much considering he's still on good that pace. Again, a fastest 2nd sector. He's going to have to get a really solid exit out of the final corner here, which it just about is. Has to bring it quickly to the inside to get the shortest possible run to the line. It's the last lap of the session for Jack Smith. Is it any quicker? The 121.1. It is quicker, but only fractionally. It is now on to a 121.111. So that further cements Jack Smith's pole position. I don't think Thomas Potter's going to have any response to that, I don't think, because I can't see him lighting up the timing screens or going any quicker. No, they're all in orange sectors, so Thomas looks like he'll stay exactly where he is. Looking at Thomas here as he comes to the end of his qualifying run, brakes glowing cherry red and just clips the barrier on the exit of the right-hand Firestone turn. So he now is going to be end of that one. Also, I think that's Lee Piercy forgetting which way the circuit goes, as he was sort of stationary alongside the that part of the circuit. As they come into, we will see that the session is now over. So that is another pole position for Jack Smith, hoping to keep up his run and his championship lead. So fingers crossed he'll be able to make that happen. With qualifying complete, we'll go to the grid when we get to race 1 shortly. But for now, we'll head to a very quick advert for one of our club and championship partners. And when we come back, we'll have a chat with our top 3 from qualifying ahead of race 1 of round 3 here at Long Beach in California. Stay tuned. Qualifying complete for round 3 of VRRC Touring Cars here at Long Beach, and as always we get a chance to have a chat to our top 3 drivers in reverse order to see how they found the session and how they're finding the circuit as well. So we'll dive straight in as we do in reverse order and go with 3rd place man Oliver Gibson. Oliver, congratulations on 3rd place. I think you, like anyone else, has had to kind of quickly adjust to the nuances of Long Beach rather than the nuances of Surfers Paradise, but how's the quick transition been and how did you find adapting to Long Beach over what were you expecting to be tonight?
Yeah, a bit difficult, but I only did a few laps at Surfers Paradise, so it wasn't too difficult, but obviously, you know, setup wise it's quite different with massive curbs at Surfers Paradise, and then here not so big, but they're still there. I mean, it remains the same with the walls being so close. That's the trickiest bit. I had a few little hits, but overall it's similar, but obviously there's quite a bit of difference between them.
In terms of the qualifying performance, of course, 3rd fastest, you know, your best time put you about sort of 3/10 off Jack, so you're up there, of course, along with Thomas and with Jack in that front group. How are you expecting at least race 1 to play out? Of course, it's a street circuit, so it's going to be quite congested in the first few corners. Are you hoping just to get the better launch off the line, try and squeeze between them and try and see if you can get your way towards the front and disrupt things a bit? Or are you just going to be a little bit like Monza, let the first few corners play out, see how it looks, and then just let the rest of the race sort of fall into place?
Yeah, it's probably more like Monza. Who knows what's going to happen on this first lap, especially into turn 1. These BMWs take so long to get their tyres up to any sort of working temperature, so the first few laps are probably going to be a bit sketchy, but yeah, just make it through even just lap 1 would be would be great. But yeah, see where we end up. I'm sure there's going to be many incidents in this. I just hope I'm not one of them.
We'd hope so, of course, and being quite a narrow, twisty circuit is where I like Surface Paradise was going to be. I mean, we talked about the fact that Monza was going to be a benefit for the Audis, given there was such large curbs and chicanes in the mix to really suit them. Do you think this is a similar vein? There's not as many curbs to have to tackle in the BMW, but do you think that it's pretty evenly matched, given that we've got one of the Audis up there in the top 5?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think there's characteristics that help the Audi. Obviously, there's a few curbs, but I think the BMW's got some strong corners as well. So it's a bit of a mix. It's definitely the closest I think we've had. Maybe Brands was a little bit closer. Actually, just looking at the top 10, I think this is the closest actually. So quite different to Monza, which is good for us in the Beamers. So fingers crossed that is the case, and we're just a little bit faster than the Audis, because I've got Scott behind me, and if he's in front of me again and I sit behind him the whole race, I'm not going to be happy.
Let's make sure it doesn't happen in turn 1 then and try and block him out, I think, if you can. Good effort qualifying though from 3rd on the grid, so the second row means you've got plenty of space to do something with and plenty of potential. So fingers crossed it works out, and who knows, if it all works out, we'll see you on the podium and talk to you again at the end of race 1. But until then, best of luck and I hope it goes well.
Cheers.
So that's 3rd place Oliver Gibson. Now let's move on to the man who was constantly battling for pole position with the eventual pole man that we'll get to in a second, and that is Thomas Potter. Thomas, another excellent qualifying for you, another front row start after Monza. Obviously changing circuits due to, I guess, unforeseen circumstances means that you had to kind of quickly learn Long Beach on the fly, but how have you found it, and how pleased are you with second on the grid once again?
Well, I'm gutted that we swapped tracks, because I love Surface Paradise with the curbs, but I can see why it changed, because it would be carnage. But still pretty, well, I love this track as well, just not as much as Surface Paradise, and I've definitely got more time in me, but I'm sure Jack does too, so I'm not sure how it would have worked out, but I know for a fact if I hooked up the lap, I could have especially beat the 0.1, but I'm sure he made mistakes. I know he's well up on one of the laps and then unfortunately got down, so not too sure how it came out, but I'm still pretty pleased with the front row.
Because you were kind of trading the battle pole position back and forth with Jack throughout that race, throughout that session for the most part, so you two seem pretty evenly matched. How crucial is the start going to be from the front row, particularly on a circuit as tight and twisting a street course like Long Beach? Are you going to try and bid to be first into that first corner as anyone would, or are you just going to take it the first couple of turns as it comes and work out the rest later as the race goes on?
Oh, first corner is going to be everything, because it's a street circuit. It's going to be tricky to overtake, of course, because it's a street circuit, as well as the fact that it's Jack Smith in front of me, so that's going to increase the difficulty by about 2 times to get past him. So it's going to be, for me, all about this start. If I see if I can get a good launch, which I didn't last week, so hopefully I can change it. And if I get a good launch, hopefully I can repeat what I did in the minis last night and then drive away.
Oh, of course, it's from front-wheel drive minis to rear-wheel drive BMW, so another quick transition from front to rear. So, again, front row starts excellent, so fingers crossed it works out. And again, who knows, if it all works out, we'll be speaking to you in about 20 minutes' time if you're on the podium. So, best of luck, and we'll see how the race plays out for you.
Thank you.
Good job from Thomas Potter in 2nd place, and not for the first time, we're going to chat to the man who's starting in position number 1, the man who's P1 in the championship, and that is Jack Smith. As I mentioned, Jack, in the offline, I at one point thought you'd gone a second clear of the field, until that was my own incompetence to recognise it was just a 10th than that. But you were trading fastest sector times in the end, fastest laps with Thomas in that session, so that must be pretty satisfying, even by a 10th, to grab another pole position, which around here is going to be pretty crucial given the nature of the circuit.
Yeah, it's really close, isn't it? So yeah, it's we'll see how the race goes. Obviously, I've got a bit more ballast than Thomas, so I don't really keep that in my mind. But it's sort of like after every session, I'm just like, well, how much else must I have if I've got this ballast as well? But yeah, it's nice to know that I'm still up there, still getting pole position and everything like that with the extra weight. But yeah, this track, it suits me so much. I just love all the technical little bits of it, and it's like I just love these really obscure little tracks, and I feel like this is where, like, if I do have ballast, this is one of the tracks that I can, try and get ahead. And yeah, like Monza, I fell behind a bit. I just couldn't find anything there, and yeah, this track with so many technical corners, I can just find little bits of time here and there, and yeah, it's brought me back up to the top again. So yeah, going to make the most of it. Going to try and get a good result here today, and yeah, I've got to keep Thomas behind me.
course, last time out at Monza, you were in the car which perceptively didn't have as much of an advantage over places, things like the curbs compared to the Audis, and so you had to settle for a couple of results that were off the top step of the podium. How much determination have you got to put that right? You've done the first bit, of course, in pole position, but how determined are you to convert that into at least one win tonight to keep that championship lead strong, particularly as you've come into the weekend pretty much tied on points with second place?
Yeah, I mean, the job's only just started. I think the pole position's one thing, but yeah, to get the points is where it really matters. So, yeah, it's going to be proper heads down, no mistakes, try not to hit a wall anywhere, which is going to be a really hard challenge around it. It's super, super tricky to keep out of the walls, but yeah, that whole of qualifying, I didn't tap a wall, so I'm feeling really good. And yeah, just got to keep it down and keep going and just see if we can not make any mistakes and keep the lead off the start. That's going to be key. Like Thomas said, it's just whoever has a lead after T1, I think is going to run away with it. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
You've got a long drag down towards turn 1, so you can sort yourselves out before you get to Toyota, before hopefully getting yourself in the lead. But you've got about under 2 minutes to get yourself ready, so congratulations on pole. And again, who knows, we might see you back again and win the circle with a victory. So until then, let's see how the next 20 minutes unfolds, and best luck that it all works out for you.
That's what. Cheers, Scott.
Here we go. So that is the qualifying top 3 interviews complete, and everyone is now getting themselves in position for our first of 2 races here tonight at Long Beach, and it should be quite fascinating how this plays out. Of course, we've got a field of, looks like 14 or so touring cars ready to go, the vast majority being BMWs, but we have got the handful of Audis in the field. I'm intrigued to see how both of the Audis of Scott Bugner and Andy Carroll get on in 4th and 6th position. We know those cars are a bit better being front-wheel drives, they're a little bit better on the turn-in, so they might be better through some of these tight, twisty circuits, but as Jack mentioned, he likes these kind of intricate, tricky circuits where you can wind your way through in all the technical sections, so it certainly seems to be working in Jack's favour so far with pole position. But Thomas said he had a bit more pace in underneath him, could have had a bit more if he'd managed to hook up a couple of better sectors, and those two were trading sector times at the top of the times all the way through that session until right with the end, where Jack Smith put the final nail in the coffin by going about a tenth or so quicker, and it didn't seem as though that Thomas and co, whilst he was going a bit quicker in some of the sectors, couldn't quite hook up the total lap to make it happen. Less than 30 seconds to go then until race number 1 gets underway. It's always quite fascinating to watch racing around Long Beach, particularly with the walls, where if you take liberties, they are going to be waiting. One small slip too early or too late, you find yourself clipping the wall and ruining your race, certainly all the way through. So 10 seconds on the clock left to go. The red lights are about to come up, and race 1 for round 3 of VRRC World Touring Cars all set to get going when the red lights go out any second now. And Rich Hayden with a suspiciously good start, but good launch from anyway to pick himself around the outside. He might even get to the lead by the time they get to Toyota. So down towards turn 1 goes Rich Hayden, and he'll be in the lead here with Thomas Potter in a 3-wide sandwich between himself, Smith and Gibson in towards Toyota corner. Potter goes deep into turn 1 and just about holds it. Little touch of the wall on exit for Potter by the look of it, but Hayden slipped back to 3rd now behind Jack Smith, who is completely on the back of Thomas Potter's rear wing. Hayden up to 3rd place. I'd like to think it was just a very, very good on-the-nail launch from Rich Hayden, unless he gets a time penalty later on for jumping it. But if there is anything, we'll let the stewards decide if there was anything there or not. It just might have been a very, very good on-the-ball start. 3rd for Rich Hayden. They come down towards the left-hander at Tech 8 turn, and it is Potter who leads, Smith in 2nd, Hayden 3rd, then Gibson and Bugner rounding out the top 5. Followed by Chris Blakey in 6th position, Page in 7th, Jones in 8th, Press in 9th, and Andy Carroll didn't get a great start. He was starting 6th, he's down to 10th. So the 2 car bug racing Audis have really slipped down the order. A little 1 position lost for Scott Bugner and 4 places lost for Andy Carroll. He's now staring at the back of, this is Scott Bugner's car looking at the back of Oliver Gibson, who in turn is looking at the back of Rich Hayden in 3rd position as they turn through the left-hander at Indy left, and then this fantastic 180-degree hairpin, full lock to get round it in one go, up to the end of lap number 1, and Rich, I think, possibly did go a little bit too eagerly at the start because he's dived straight into the pits. That's possibly for a drive-through or a stop-go. Either way, he's now dropping down the order, and he's continuing on. As the end of lap 1 comes, and it is Potter who leads the way from Smith in 2nd, Gibson 3rd, but under pressure from Bugner as they make their way down towards Toyota corner for the 2nd time. We get the view looking here to see where Gibson was, and that's the way he went down the escape road. I thought it was a safety car for some reason, a recourse car, but it wasn't. It was Gibson's car's gone straight on at Toyota corner, and he's now down the order to, it looks like, 9th by the look of it. So he's now got quite a lot of tasks to do to pick his way through back up the field. He's got some 18 minutes to do it. There's now a hole in the field because Potter and Smith have broken away in that leading duo, with Bugner now chased by Chris Blakey. Some more crashes coming up on our timing screen. Connor Potter's been involved in one of them, and he was, I think, about 6th or 7th position. As they now turn out of the back straight onto the back run towards the right-hander at Firestone Turn. This is now Jack Smith chasing after Thomas Potter. Potter would love a victory in the BMWs here, but Smith is going to push him as hard as he can all the way through and round the 180-degree hairpin. Into lap number 2. Back up through the gears again into 4th gear. Then into 5th, just past 100 miles an hour. Over the start-finish line. Gap is about 0.6 of a second between the top two as they progress down towards Toyota corner once again. And under brakes, turning in through the left-hander. Smith trying to get a little closer here. He'd love to get himself a victory after he missed out last time at Monza, and Potter was also in contention for a good result too, but he got caught up in 1 or 2 incidents and had to slip down the order and settle, I think, for at least 1 top 5, which isn't quite exactly what he was looking for. But if he can command from the front here and keep Jack Smith at bay, this could well be the story of the race. Now, behind them, Scott Woodwiss has got back to 3rd place, of course, because we did see him chasing the BMW of Oliver Gibson. Chris Blakey's gone up to 5th position, so a good move from him. Jamie Page is up to P6 as well. If memory serves me right, Jamie Page did get a podium at Monza last time at the fully reversed grid. So Jamie actually pulled off quite a result. He's found a lot of time in between events, it seems, to keep up that momentum. As the brakes glowing red on Thomas Potter's car, make him turn this way all the way through the Indy left corner. This almost never-ending left-hander. Then you give a very quick, sharp 180-degree right all the way around the hairpin on back onto Shoreline Drive. Back up through the gears again. So Potter then seems to have the measure of Smith in terms of pace. They were pretty evenly matched in qualifying, only separated by about 1/10 on ultimate pace. So very evenly matched are these 2 BMWs as they head back down towards Toyota corner at the end of this long opening section. Huge dive under brakes and turning in. Use of the curb on the inside. We know that the BMWs aren't the biggest fan of curves, but there's enough here. They are big enough or small enough for the BMWs to manage. Also then, who of course is doing double duty in the mini challenge as well, was racing last night, has to quickly transition from a front-wheel drive mini challenge car to a rear-wheel drive BMW touring car. So it's good adaptability to be able to switch between the two without too much trouble. Further back, this is the recovering Oliver Gibson. He has caught Andy Carroll, who was 10th at one point, but he's managed to get himself up through a couple of places. Should also be a shout out for Catherine Potter as well, who this early stage of the race is up to 8th. In fact, all 3 of the Potters in the top 10, because Catherine is 8th and Connor is 9th, just ahead of Kenny Press in 10th position. Goes the fight for 3rd place down the pit straight. The leaders turn out of the hairpin back onto Shoreline Drive once more. The gap at the front is about 1/10 of a second as Thomas Potter sets the new fastest lap of the race. He's done a 1:21.3. That's about 2/10 off the pole time set by Jack Smith, who's got one car coming out of the pit lane, one of the BMWs. Couldn't quite see who it was. It might be John Jones, I think. He's quite far down the order in 14th. Closing up through the fountain sort of roundabout section was Jack Smith, and back out once again on the other side. Through the double right-handers and they approach the Tech 8 turn. Meanwhile, further back, this is now between Blakey and Carroll. I think that is John Jones who's just moving out of the way. It's nice smart driving from John, keeping out the way. Well done. Doesn't stop Blakey taking the racing line and keep close to the Audi, who, as you said a few times, will have better turn-in, but might well understeer on corner exit. The BMWs might understeer a bit on entry, but then have the punch from that rear-wheel drive to help them rotate around it. They'll twitch over the curb as Blakey rode it a little too much onto the back straight, running down towards, down Seaside Way towards Firestone Turn. Closes back up under braking. We know how good these BMWs are under brakes as well, particularly in these tighter sections. And back into the hairpin to see how much lock that Chris Blakey puts on. Basically all of it. And then back through the gears again. Excuse me. So half a second still separates the top two. Just looking back here at Oliver Gibson, who has worked his way now back to 5th position. So he's got a few more seconds to make up before he can catch the scrap going on for 3rd position between Bugner and Blakey. He's got, what's that, about 8.2 seconds to make up in the next 12.5 minutes plus change. Let's see if he's got any possibility of working that one. He's already pulling away quite notably from Andy Carroll, so the BMWs seem to like these twistier street circuits here, particularly at Long Beach. Fascinating to have seen what would have happened at Surfers Paradise in the very winding chicanes that circuit also provides on top of that. Another battle further back. This is Jamie Page, who is chasing after Catherine Potter, who is up to quite an impressive run so far, up into 7th position. Page is having a look up the inside into Tech 8 turn, takes the inside line, and that's another place gain for Jamie. That's him up into 7th, Potter down to 8th position. He presses 9th, who's managed to find a way past Colin Potter to take another step inside the top 10. Top 2 are as they were, no change in that order. And after that, roughly a 7, 8, almost 8, not 8 to 10 second advantage over Bugner in 3rd position, with Blakey just a second away. And there's now 6.9 seconds between. It's changed again, it's now 8.6 seconds. So I think it's a bit of an anomaly because they go so slow through the hairpin that it changes the gap a little bit. Quite close, is really close to cut through over those curbs is Jack Smith, trying to keep the pressure on Thomas Potter. Back on board with Smith, using all that curve, little twitch of oversteer again through this sort of off-camber left-hander, really up close to the wall. And again, down towards Tech 8 turn, back down through the gears again to 3rd gear again. He has to take a second bite of that apex because he realised he was turning a bit too early and he would have smacked the wall on the inside if he had done. Finding those important trackside markers, or the instinct that you have to turn in at exactly the right moment to maximise all the track that you can use. Now the sprint begins back down Seaside Way, back into Firestone turn, this long corner of Indy left. He's staying pretty stable at the moment, there's no real change between the two of them. Only requires a mistake from either of them to really change the complexion of it, because either if Smith makes a mistake, he loses several car lengths to Potter. If Potter makes the mistake, it opens the door for Smith to challenge for the lead. But right now, Smith is just keeping Potter as honest as possible. And as they make their way back down towards Toyota, the gap is staying pretty static. It's still hovering around half a second to 6/10 between the two. Race continues on and goes past the halfway point. 10 minutes completed, 10 to go. Further back, puff of smoke there. That was Chris Blakey still chasing after Scott Bugner. I think he was going through the puff of smoke because it's coming off the front tyres of Scott Bugner's Audi in the sim from how much he's turning the wheel. Very close to the wall on the exit of that first right-hander. And again, almost. Now back down towards... turns where Blakey's closing back up again, so he lost a bit of time in the last sector last time by the looks of it, but now he's gathering it back together on this lap. He's reeling the Audi in pretty quickly as they make their way back towards Firestone turn under the bridge on Seaside Way. I mentioned in qualifying, you don't often really see touring cars racing around Long Beach. You do Indy cars or GT cars or even prototypes that race around the streets of Long Beach too. We have also had drifting around Long Beach as well. That's been quite a novelty, particularly on that last sector too, through Firestone turn and through Indy left. That has been a drifting route in the past for Formula D. They can't really afford to drift here on this circuit because you can lose an awful lot of time if that happens. Through the next complex of corners. Looking back to our race leaders now, and that gap has again stayed very static at about 0.6 of a second. No change between Potter and Smith at this time. Gap has gone out again by another fraction. It's now 0.7. And it seems as though they're just biding their time here. Whether Jack's just sitting back a little bit and not using his tyres up too much on these winding, twisting streets, and just letting Thomas dictate the pace, and Jack has got enough in reserve to challenge later on. Out of the hairpin, back onto shoreline drive they go. A pretty sort of standoff race at the moment. Not too many cars making moves. It's all just cars in a bit of a stalemate here, trying to move each other. A little bit further back, we're looking at Kenny Press, who's still chasing after Catherine Potter as they go onto Seaside Way. Got the toe on the BMW. Has he got the speed or the pace and possibly the tenacity to line up and have a move? He thinks about it, puts himself to the inside, more than thinks about it, goes for it down the inside, gets it anchored up. How on earth did he stop that? That was incredible. Then there's a bit of sort of a shoulder barge on the exit through the exit of Firestone turn, and Potter gets back through and runs slightly deep into the hairpin, and that's Lee Piercy that's gone around. Lee Piercy at the back of the field, so his car, sadly it looks like a lap down by the look of it, so whatever happened to Lee has certainly seen him in a world of trouble. Kenny's also been closed down by Rich Hayden as well, who's in 10th position, who had that, what appeared to be a jump start, but again, we'll let any stewards decide anything that was going on. He did have to pit on in the lap number 1, so that potentially would suggest that it may well have been some kind of penalty for being a little too eager off the start. But again, we'll let the stewards decide if there was fully anything to blame there. And Hayden's gone through past Potter as well, so that's 2 positions gained for both Kenny Press and Rich Hayden. I think that's possibly was due to Catherine Potter, by the look of it, backing off not to get caught up with what was happening with Lee Piercy. So both Press and Hayden have worked their way through into 8th and 9th as a result. 100 miles an hour before you get back down through the gears again into the right-hander as we go back towards our fight for 3rd. Now they are some 10 seconds away from the lead group, so Bugner now is doing his best here to uphold Audi honours, as Andy Carroll is back in 6th position. Kenny Press is back in 8th. I think the other Audi, which is Jack Dickerson's car if I'm correct, that's back in 11th, but we're staying with 3rd. They make their way through double right-hander and back down the short straight towards Tech 8 turn. Just like Potter and Smith, Bugner and Blakey are keeping very evenly matched between each other, not really one going for a big dive or a move. Looking back now from Bugner's Audi, there is Chris Blakey's two-tone orange and it's like a silver or platinum coloured BMW just looming behind him. A bit of pace mid straight there, so it looks like the Audi's got a little more straight line speed than we thought. The brakes again. Blakey, those BMWs loved braking late, especially into a right-hander like that. Through the Indy left, around 180 degrees is probably the closest Blakey gets on the lap. Just needs that really good exit off the corner, and you'd have thought with rear-wheel drive the car would have a bit more punch off the corner, but as though, at least in a straight line, in the initial traction, the front-wheel drive cars are coming much better off the corner, it seems, which is quite interesting. So Bugner holding 3rd. Still no change in the fight for the lead, and we did hear from both Jack and from Thomas that whoever essentially led off the line is going to be crucial. Now, what's gone on here? This is Rich Hayden and Kenny Press. It looked initially like potentially 2 separate incidents, but the end result is both of them have come together. Rich's car has come to a halt. He's letting Kenny go first. That was down into Firestone turn. So both of them got together. Whether or not there was any shenanigans between them, again, we'll let the clerk of the course decide. We only caught the aftermath of that. So to point fingers would be a little bit premature. Chris Blakey continuing the pursuit of Scott Bugner for 3rd place. Down the back straight once again. They've only got 3 3/4 minutes left on the clock before the checkered flag comes out. Through Firestone turn. Again, the BMW agile enough. It's obviously longer than the Audi and it's front rear wheel drive, but it still has enough agility to keep up with the Audi in some of these sections. Although what does surprise me is off the corner, it's the front-wheel drive Audi that gets the better run traction off of these tighter turns than the rear-wheel drive BMW. I would have thought that the rear-wheel drive for the BMW would have helped the car sit down better and actually get off the corner much neater. But no, it's the front-wheel drive dragging them through as these two are still at play. And that looked like it was Rich Hayden clattering the wall on corner exit of Tech 8 turn, which allows Kenny Press to get back through. So what was an exciting enough looking battle has prematurely ended with Rich finding the barriers on the exit of that left-hander. The leaders are coming up to what was the site of that incident briefly. Jack Smith is continuing this pursuit here, but these two BMWs very evenly matched by being driven by two very evenly matched drivers. I believe that Thomas Potter is essentially not even young enough yet to compete in a championship like Fiesta Juniors, for example. I think at least he's only around about 13, 14 years old, which shows that his talent certainly outweighs his current age. Through the hairpin, back through the gears again. Through Bridgestone, this very long right-hander. They get over the straight. They're going to get 2 more laps, I reckon, because they come across the line with a fraction over 2 minutes to go. It's on that rev limiter down through the gears. So third gear down to second for this roundabout section around the fountain. Third gear, hold it for the first right-hander. Maybe down to second for the second one. No, keeps it in third. Probably just control the engine revs to control the engine speed to make sure you've got a much stabler run off the corner. And they are coming up now to put a lap on. It looks like that appears to be Rich Hayden, and has he caught back up to Kenny Press again, I wonder? Rich's car definitely is there in front of them. I think he might well have done. On to Seaside Way again. And this is Hayden. That's him behind Jack Dickerson. So that will be for position between Dickerson's Audi and Hayden in the BMW. Takes the tighter approach through Indy left, has the place, and Dickerson gives him plenty of room on the inside line to squeeze through. So Rich remains back up to P10. In fact, Dickerson, I thought for a second, was going to abort to the pits early on, but he decides to carry on. The leaders are behind them, about to start the last lap of the race. I thought for a second that Thomas was being caught a bit more by Jack Smith, but it's been pretty much a stalemate between these two. Not much wheel-to-wheel fighting, but it has been a very neatly controlled race by Thomas as they come down towards the first corner once again. Now then, this Prix through the traffic could become something of an interesting situation, because Potter here's got to keep his cool to get past both Dickerson and then Rich Hayden if he hasn't disappeared too far up the road. Now, if Potter can negotiate the Audi clean enough, he should be home and dry in this contact. It looked as though, I think, that Potter's gone into the back of Dickerson, and now this is the chance Smith needs on the final lap of the race, round the outside into the braking zone, into Tech 8 turn, and Jack Smith has taken the lead on the final lap of the race. Now, call that commentator's curse or not, but Thomas Potter was behind Jack Dickerson. It looked like it was simply a bit of a miscommunication, and the outcome is that Jack Smith has taken full advantage of that. It's now into the lead with less than half a lap to go, and I don't think there's anything Potter can do here. Hayden backs off and lets the top two through, but a dramatic last lap change. So Jack Smith looks like he's about to come on to what I think will be his second win of the season only out of 5 races. Out through Indy left, into the hairpin onto Shoreline Drive for the last time. Potter will close in, but it's going to be too late in the end. And an extraordinary six events on the last lap of the race. Jack Smith will come across the line and literally snatch victory on the final lap of the race to take the win in race 1 of the evening here at Long Beach in the VRRC World Touring Cars. Potter will have to settle for second place, just a quarter of a second back. And in the fight for third place, well, it says Rich Hayden's there, but I don't think that's correct, given that he was a little further back. Yeah, there we go. Scott Bugden now takes third place on the podium, so we'll talk to Scott once this race is completely finished. 4th goes to Chris Blakey, 5th to Oliver Gibson, 6th to Rich Hayden. Well, no, 6th, Rich is a little further down. I think it's just a glitch in the timing for Assetto Corsa. And then it's 6th for Andy Carroll, and the rest of the order will go streaming through across the line. But that was extraordinary. What a final lap that was. To the race decided on the last lap of the race through back markers was quite extraordinary. We'll get the load for our top 3 very, very shortly. Just stay with us on the other side of this quick advert break, and we'll have reactions from race 1 of the evening at Long Beach round 3 of VRRC, coming up very shortly in a couple of moments after these messages. Stay tuned. Never say we don't give you drama or entertainment in this championship or on VRRC, because we take victories right down to the last lap of the race. We'll talk to the top 2 in a moment's time, but of course, as usual, we go in reverse order for the top 3 for each race before we get the grid coming up for race 2. So 3rd place in the race, I was about to say lonely, but I think that's the right word, given he had some pressure from Chris behind, but we'll get to that in a second, is Scott Woodwiss. Scott, congratulations on an excellent 3rd place. I think the first thing to start is you got kind of a gifted 3rd place, and Oliver Gibson forgot which way Toyota Corner went. Just talk us through what was going through your mind when that happened.
I think he's fed up of seeing the back of my car, so he was trying so hard not to let me through. I think it's so hard to find the braking points on the right-hand side, so I totally understand. I've done it quite a few times in practice, so yeah, it's unlucky there for Ollie. But yeah, then after that, it was just the Audi hasn't quite got the pace of the BMW, I don't think, here. So obviously it's a bit of a switch around from probably Monza. So it was just about trying not to make any mistakes, hitting the wall and keeping Chris behind me as much as I could.
So, as you mentioned, you had Chris behind you for the majority of that race, and that was the battle for best of the rest behind the top 2, which I think by the end of the race was some 11-12 seconds up the road, such the pace that they had. How comfortable were you in 3rd place keeping Chris at bay? Because there were a couple of times when he got close and he was giving you quite a bit of pressure behind him, particularly in the closing stages on a couple of laps. How did you cope with that pressure, given that Chris was right behind you?
Yeah, no, there was always pressure. Chris is a really good driver, so I knew that if we were going to have a battle, it'd be a good battle. But yeah, again, there's strengths and weaknesses here. The BMW in Sector 1 can just really get the traction down through the tight, twisty stuff for the first few corners, and that's where they're gaining a lot of their time. Even in practice, they were sort of like 4 or 5 tenths quicker a lap in that sector than what I could do. So yeah, it's a shame, but we said this at the start, it's one of them things where it's going to swing left and right, and maybe next week it'll favour the Audi, so we just got to try and minimise any mistakes, get as many points as we can, and put Jack under as much pressure as we can throughout the year.
Now we've got race 2, of course, coming up. Speaking of pressure, you've now got to try and work your way through a lot of the field that was behind you in race 1, in front of you in these opening couple of laps. This is not going to be like Monza, where there was possibly some opportunities and the circuit was a bit wider. This is going to be a whole different kettle of fish to work through. Again, like with Monza for the reverse grid race before with some of the drivers, what's the approach here? Is it try and make up as many places as you can and work your way in there, or is it more of a Monza approach, which is just let the field settle itself out in the first few corners, whatever plays out, and see where you end up after the first few corners?
I think here it's just about picking the fights wisely. You can't go for the moves that you'd probably do at Monza here, because I think you'd end up in the wall. So it is just picking your fights wisely, and just getting the points, where you can, because one hit of the wall and it's a 0 point round, and that will really hurt you throughout the year. So yeah, I mean, if we can get a couple of moves done, we will. If we can't, then if I'm being honest with you, at this track, I'm not a great fan. So Rich knows how much I don't like street tracks. So for me, just to finish and not hit the wall, I'll be more than happy.
I think you changed circuit just to annoy you. That's the reason why you changed it. Just so you can make
Probably
your life
was.
difficult.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Of course, yeah, that's not true. Of course, yeah, that's not true. Anyway, good.
They're both street circuits.
Thanks, Rich. We know it's not true, so it's absolutely fine. Right, congratulations on third, Scott. Of course, best of luck for picking your way through from towards the back of the field in this reverse good for race 2. And again, fingers crossed you can get through the first few turns without any issues and get yourself a good result and possibly even back on the podium again. So congratulations and all the best for race 2.
Thank you very much.
So that's from third place Scott Buckner to our top 2 in that race. But we did see, of course, we've watched in the last lap the lead change in corners on top of that. So let's have a word with the man who unfortunately had to settle for second best after doing such a grand job throughout that race from the beginning, and that is Thomas Potter. Thomas, I know it will sting given the fact that you lost out on the victory. Just it looks like a bit of a miscommunication on the lap traffic. But the positive we can take from that is that you had the pace for the vast majority of that race to not just run at the front, but keep Jack at bay. He was pretty much running in lockstep with you throughout the whole race. So even though it's losing out on the victory, are you still trying to look at the positives of what was still a healthy race with good points in second and good speed to keep with Jack throughout the majority of that?
Yeah, I'll take the positives. I was just so good on that last corner because I was on the limit every lap, just extracting the most out of the car. But I was good because every straight I seemed to lose 2 tenths to Jack, but obviously tore. And yet again, he's so rapid through that middle sector. And honestly, I think it's some ballast. I mean, I know obviously it's going to be slower overall with 40 kg, but it definitely does help through the middle sector, getting over the curbs and just sticking it around the corners. But overall, he had some rapid pace, and I know one mistake by me and he would have been through, and vice versa. So I was glad I could get through him a race down, and I was glad I could keep him behind obviously until the last corner, but well, not last corner, last lap, but still a good race, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, as I said, it's I think the key thing is for that one is to take the positives from it. Again, you still take some really good strong points before it's going to the championship, of course, to build out the score again, considering that you had half points from the first round with your fellow racer taking your place as well. Now, of course, you go into race 2. You've got a back row start for this one, and of course, you've very similar situation, of course, to both Jack and also Scott around you. Kevin's finished on the podium. Now you're towards the rear of the field with a lot more traffic and cars in front of you. For you personally, what's your approach to this? Are you going to try and pick up a couple of places, or play the safe game a little bit, watch and let the first few corners play out, see what happened, and essentially, as the term goes, just see where the chips land and see how you get on?
Well, my original plan was to go the other side of the roundabout and hopefully avoid all carnage, but obviously that won't work. So honestly, I think it's going to be opposite of race 1, take it easy, because I know on race 1 I got an insane start, and I think Rich got a jump start and kind of helped me through, so I'm not going to complain about that because he gave me a nice tour just to get in front. But yeah, take the opposite, go slower for this one, avoid carnage, and then take it corner by corner.
For racing at the Porto Street circuit, you'd have that option to go either way around the roundabout, so it would have possibly worked. But this is Long Beach, not Porto, so maybe think about that for next time. Well, again, it's easy to look at disappointing and losing the race victory, but still, at second place, still a really good second place. It's good points for the championship, and it means you get a bit of redemption to try and finish ahead of Jack again in race 2. So fingers crossed it all works out, and fingers crossed if you can make your way through that you can get back on the podium again. But again, for the result that you got, it's still good for second place. So congratulations on scoring it, and best of luck for race 2.
Absolutely, thank you.
Second place, Thomas Potter, to the man who I think at one point was thinking, where do I find a way through? Found his opportunity, and once again, we see him in victory lane. So, Jack Smith, congratulations on another victory. Even though you were pushing him all the way to try and find an opportunity, I don't think you were quite expecting to take the victory in that way with half a lap to go, I don't think.
No, it's not the worst way to take a win as well, because you feel like you've just stolen it. So yeah, but as soon as I saw that happen, I was like, right, I'm gonna try to switch out to the outside and get this, because it's the only time I'm gonna get past him, because I just couldn't. I tried to get runs at him every time, and he got such an insane launch out the last corner every single lap, and I just couldn't keep up with that. So yeah, I tried my best. Yeah, there wasn't really a way around at this track. It's so like start stop and then walls either side. It's just not possible with the type of corners that you got here. So yeah, it was definitely T1. T1 made that corner for Thomas. I don't know if you meant to do that to go in so deep to that corner, but it worked. He managed to get it stopped, and he took the lead. So yeah, no, it's a really good race. I think he should be proud of that one, to be fair, because that was a mega bit of driving from Thomas there. So yeah, no, really happy with race 1.
Now we're going to the second race where the grid is, I think, at least partially reversed, not totally. So now you've got some more traffic to try and work your way through and don't have the luxury of a front row start. So this is going to be quite interesting. So how are you thinking of possibly tackling this? And again, what approach are you going to take in these opening lap or two to try and keep yourself out of trouble?
Yeah, of course you got to keep out of the incidents that may happen ahead. You never know, it might be a clean race. Fingers crossed. So hopefully it is a clean race. But yeah, I'm just going to try and weave my way through. Don't think many of us are going to be pushing on lap 1. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. So yeah.
Yeah, we've got a minute to go, so we'll let you go quickly. But again, congratulations and all the best for race 2.
Nice one, thank you, Scott. A quick shout out to the Hop Cavern, everyone at Hop Cavern, my parents and my girlfriend. I know everyone's watching, and everyone at DK Power as well. Thank God to know they're watching.
Good stuff. Off you go. You've got race 2 to do. Congratulations. Right, so, race 2 going straight in after interviews there. We've only got roughly about 40 race gets on, so plenty of time to fill in those interviews. So the grid has been shuffled around a bit more compared to the race of before, and from that grid it's actually looking at Rich Hayden on pole position, or there should be, I think, Scott Bugner apparently. One of the two. We've got, looks at Rich Hayden at the front of the field with Andy Carroll alongside him, Chris Blakey third on the grid. So it's not quite a full reverse grid, but there is a bit of a switch around at least for the top 6 or 7 drivers. So they're in the mid-pack here, which should be quite fascinating to see how that plays out. 15 seconds to go, and Rich Hayden, who'll be hoping to at least go when the lights actually go out this time and get a decent start. See if he can lead down towards turn 1 and have a trouble-free victory. So, can it be another victory for Jack Smith, or can somebody else take the top step? We'll find out. It is race 2 of round 3 of VRRC World Touring Cars, and it is underway with a nice clean getaway. And this time, Rich Hayden gets the clean start of all and get a nice clean run down towards turn 1. One car was a little out wide on the approach off the line, as Gibson's a bit further back in 4th position, looking for 3rd and 2nd. Alongside, looks like Carroll and Blakey down towards Toyota corner. Who's going to be last of the late breakers here? Can they get through cleanly? They're going to be side by side through the first few turns, but they look as though they've got through just about unscathed. Hayden leads it, Blakey in 2nd place. Carroll misses the apex of the exit of the roundabout turns and loses out 3rd place to Oliver Gibson. Also going up inside there, that's side by side between our top 2 from race 1. That's Jack Smith and Tom Potter going wheel to wheel. Into the barriers goes Andy Carroll. Into the barriers goes the BMW. Also into there too was John Jones in the background. It's 3 wide for 4th position behind them. That was between, looks like, Smith, Potter and Bugner. Who comes out on top of that one? It is Smith that gets in front of Potter, in front of Bugner. And then it's Lee Piercy in there as well in the second of the race with dimension. They've recars, and that's forcing his way up the inside there was Bugner trying to get his way past Potter, which he has done. It was a little bit robust, shall we say, to get through, but he elbows his way through into his 6th place, shooting down Seaside Drive towards the Firestone turn for the first time under racing speeds. There's Lee Piercy, who hoping to do their spinning this time and stay in 7th position. And 2 more of the Audis that are just behind him. Jack Dickerson ahead of Andy Carroll on this opening lap. I think they're about to invert themselves and Carroll get himself in front. So a little frisky lap 1 then, but it's Jamie Page who's now taking the lead. Now Page took a 2nd place in the reverse grid race last time out at Monza, so this could be an opportunity for him to make a good result. But as I say that, Jamie Page has gone to the pits, so whatever happened to Jamie has had an issue, and that's him. His fortunes in the race taking a quick nosedive. So now Rich Hayden hits the front in the number 50 Racing with Dementia liveried car, followed by Chris Blakey in 2nd place and Oliver Gibson holding station in 3rd. Jack Smith is up to 4th where he started. Bugner's 5th, then it's Potter, Piercy, Dickerson, Andy Carroll after his spin right here on the exit of this second right-hander before the straight towards Tech 8 turn. And then it's P10 for Kenny Press, who is in the bottom of the top 10, followed by Carroll, who's now slipped to 11th. So more dramas for Andy on this 2nd lap. So the opening 2 laps really haven't been favourable for the car bug racing Audi. And he's ahead of Catherine Potter, Connor Potter, who's also pitted. So 2 cars hitting strife in the opening couple of laps, as both Connor Potter and Jamie Page are in the pits. This is on-board view from Oliver Gibson watching 2 W's in front as Blakey sweeps to the inside. He's going to be a little bit later on the brakes. He tried it, tries to force Rich Hayden to miss his braking point. Just looming large in the mirrors in 4th place is the black and gold car of Jack Smith, headlights ablaze. Where's he looking? Just looking at the top of the screen, you can see there he is, and that's Rich Hayden gone around at the hairpin. And he's caused a bit of a traffic jam because Blakey's in there too, Dickerson's in there, Piercy's in there. It looks though that Rich Hayden, I didn't see if he did it by himself or if he was helped. All I know is that his car was sideways, facing the wrong way. We saw that before at IMSA. I think the Corvettes, when they got together, had an issue. And this has now really changed the complexion of the race because Oliver Gibson now leads the way. Jack Smith in 2nd place. Lee Piercy's up to 3rd, but for how much longer as Scott Bugner goes on the attack into Toyota corner? There's still 16 3/4 minutes to go. There's still plenty of time left in this race for it all to change again. Lee Pearcey then in quite a solid run in third place here already in a good position. He'd love to get a podium to add to what's been a bit of up and down season for Lee so far in the first couple of events. Hoping that Long Beach here is treating a little bit better. Scott Bugner is back in fourth position, ahead of Rich Hayden, who has recovered after his little rotation at the hairpin. And I make that just about, I was about to say sixth, because Thomas Potter did go diving up the inside at Tech 8 turn and couldn't quite make it stick. He overshot the corner and allowed Rich to get back through. It'll wiggle off the corner as he goes back onto Seaside Drive and back on towards the right-hander at Firestone turn. In sixth gear, nearly 200 k's over the curb on the inside, shifting back up through those gears, winding his way through the left-hander at Indy left and tuck 180 degrees through the hairpin and onto Shoreline Drive. Jack Smith sets the fastest lap of the race, second off Oliver Gibson. He's still holding third, so the two racing against dementia cars are third and fifth at this point. Might be fourth and fifth in a second, as Bugner had a look up the inside and Pearcey held his line and swept across to hold the position. So Bugner again will have to try again later on in the lap or next time on the approach to Toyota corner. For now, looks as though it's a stalemate between second and third, and we had this in race one where we had two cars battling for position up and down the field in pairs, looking to try and make a move, but the streets of Long Beach didn't offer too many opportunities to get close enough to make a dive up the inside for a pass. Jack Smith can find an opportunity, like he did at the end of race one, when Thomas Potter got held up behind one of the back markers, and there was a bit of miscommunication between the two, which ended in Jack Smith finding that avenue to get past down the outside into Tech 8 turn. Make that happen, it should be quite key. Bugner again having a look around the back of Lee Pearcey's car for third place. Pressing him hard as they go through the left-hander of Indy left. All the lock, then again we'll wind it back on the opposite direction as he rotates through the hairpin. Tighter exit off the corner for Bugner. Pearcey was much more comfortable to go off the exit of the corner quite wide against the wall. And another new fastest lap of the race, 1:21.403 goes to Jack Smith. The gap is down to less than 7/10 between himself and Oliver Gibson, who, if I'm right in saying so, I think they were teammates in the World GT Challenge. Those two know each other quite well. There's two more BMWs going at it wheel to wheel. This is Thomas Potter considering a move up the inside for fifth on Rich Hayden, but Rich defends it well. Keeps the car firmly on the racing line. He's basically saying to Thomas, if you want to get past me, bit of a long way round. This is not such an easy circuit to pass. You want it, you have to come and take it from me hard way. Thomas won't be adverse to that challenge. Remember, he's got quite a wise, kind of a skilled racing head on his young shoulders. I imagine that Thomas is going to be using all this experience that he's gaining in wheel-to-wheel combat. Should serve him quite well when it gets to his first taste of real-world action. Then Rich Hayden loses the back end, Exton Tech 8 turn, and round goes the BMW. Oh dear, it's been quite an eventful evening's racing for Rich, isn't it? That's his second mistake of the race. Not that we're calling him out on it, of course, just simply observing what's happened. As Rich has dropped to 9th now after he's rejoined. He's lost that not just to Thomas Potter, but also Dickerson, Jones, Press have gone past him too. Catherine Potter's quite far back as well. And Connor Potter's back in 11th. A couple of the cars I think we didn't see either make it further than the first couple of laps or out of this race already. Here comes Bugner having a look up the inside. He's kind of forced the issue right against the edge of the wall through Bridgestone. It's side by side for third place. The Audi's got the legs through that long right-hander, but the next corner is a left-hander, which Pearcey will have track position for. Pulls himself level, breaks that a little bit later and towards Toyota corner. Did he make the turn? Yes, he did. Didn't see a blue and white car going down the escape road, so Pearcey has held on to the position. It looks to me as if Pearcey is going to hold on to third place by quite some margin already. He's managed to pull a small amount of a gap. Exiting the next couple of corners. Down the straight towards Tech 8 turn. Now they make their way back towards Seaside Avenue. It'll wiggle off the corner there for Pearcey, but he's got it under control. And whilst we look at this, the lead gap has stayed pretty static. It was about 6/10. It's now 0.8 between the top two, so no change there. It's a very familiar scenario to that of Potter and Smith in race one. The two were very much back and forth trying to find a way to hold the position. Gibson sets the new fastest lap of the race, so he's now got the pace advantage. 121.371. So he's gone a little faster than Jack Smith. Back with the leaders. There goes Gibson. There goes Smith giving chase in black and gold. Through the outing section. Pretty straightforward race so far for these two, who know each other well from, again, if I'm absolutely correct, they were teammates in the World GT Championship in a pair of Ferraris. These two know each other quite well when it comes to racing on track together as a team, but now, of course, they're racing against each other as rivals on the same circuit now in touring cars. And Gibson has got the momentum at the moment to keep Smith at bay, but Smith was good at doing this in race one, just keeping essentially at the same pace as that of Thomas Potter. And then just, he didn't necessarily force the mistake, but he kept the pressure on right to the end. So whether that contributes or not to Thomas's lack of sort of misplaced judgment when he was trying to communicate a way past with that marker, or not, only really Thomas can tell you. But at the moment, it is these two battles, as it was in race one. It's in the headlines. It's still between the top two of the lead, still between these two cars for third position. This long arcing right-hander of Bridgestone. Is Bugner in the tow close enough to go for that dive? He's getting very close to the back of the BMW. Darts out to the inside. He's fully alongside into the braking zone at Toyota. Not close enough though. Oh, he's forced the mistake. Piercy bounces off the wall. And there goes Bugner into third position. So he did actually force the mistake. He looked up the inside, was practically 2/3 alongside before he backed out of it. And I think he spooked Lee Piercy, seeing that he was on the inside, forcing him to outbrake himself, and through he goes. And now Piercy finds himself with more problems here, because this is now Thomas Potter trying to get past him. And this will be Potter if he can dive up the inside into Tech 8 turn. A fourth position laid out for Thomas. So he's one place away from a podium. Makes his way through, and that's Lee Piercy losing 2 places in as many corners, essentially, or in 2 places in 1 lap. From third position down to 5th. And now Thomas will try and chase after Bugner up in front. He's got 2 seconds to make up on the car in front. Because of his last lap time, his last lap on compared to Bugner was, I'll refresh the time on the screen because it's not telling me all the accurate positions. If I look here, his last lap was a 121.5 compared to a 122.1, so he was 7/10, practically 3/4 of a second quicker than the car in front. The gap has already come down to under 2 seconds. Now that he has clear already, as Jack Smith really late on the brakes into that roundabout section. So you can't doubt him for trying as he keeps applying the pressure to Gibson. He's a little bit closer to Gibson at this point in the race than he was to Potter in race 1. So maybe the pace is just a bit more in form for Jack at this point as he turns in now out of the left-hander. A Tech 8 turn. Both drivers using all the roads as much as possible to just get the fastest possible lap to try and keep the advantage. Now race down Seaside Avenue. Smith is in the tow. He'll be getting fractionally closer and closer. He'll be gaining hundredths of a second, getting a tow from Gibson, who's punching a hole in the air in front of him, making the air a lot cleaner for him to try and sail up onto the back of. He'll close back up under braking. Out of the hairpin. He's got the better traction off the corner to get a better sprint down and drive through the long arcing right-hander of Bridgestone. 7.5 minutes on the clock. Gap is half a second between the top two as we look at this unique camera view of Jack Smith's car. Spitting out the side exhaust. Do the brakes as well, working overtime as well. Through the roundabout section, past the fountain. Back to these double right-handers to take them back towards the short straight to Tech 8 turn. Still, Smith keeps up this pressure. He would love to get another victory. That race 1 win was his second win of the season only, because the other cars around him have taken some victories and also been able to put a stop to any runaway antics he might well have gotten away with, or might well have tried to put in play. and run away with a few more victories like he did in World GTs, but here in Touring Cars he's finding it slightly tougher, but he's up to the challenge and still crucially in contention wherever he goes. Gap is now under 4 tenths, it's now down to 0.3 of a second as Jack Smith continues the pressure. Aside from this battle, which we should keep on watching in case something develops, the only other closest battle in the field is that fight for third position between Bugner and Potter, but we'll stay with this battle here for the time being. As you watch on board with Jack Smith, that's the view he's got. Staring at the rear bumper of Oliver Gibson. With 6 minutes and change left to go on the clock. Back down towards Toyota turn. Again, closes back up under brakes on the rev limiter into third gear, uses the curb on the inside, hugs the wall with that part. He does know how to close up through this section. These two drivers are pretty much in lockstep with each other. They are. He's taking every single apex, every single acceleration point, every single point of the outside wall that they're reaching is pretty much staying the same. Some of these turns where, particularly off the corners, I think Jack is a little more confident. Now on to Seaside Avenue. Keeping up that pressure, keeping up the pursuit of Oliver Gibson, who would love a victory himself, but we know what Jack can do to put the pressure on and make mistakes. Now, Thomas Potter, meanwhile, who was in contention for that win up until the last lap of the race when he got caught behind a back marker, he's now pressing on for third place because he has Scott Bugner in his sights, and of course Thomas managed to pick up front row start for race 1 and was leading all the way through that first race until the mistake with the back marker. So he has got the pace to get through. The only question's got to be when and how is he going to find a way around and past Bugner here, who is not going to make it easy whatsoever. Turn out of the hairpin, they go on board with Potter. That's the view he has, the bright orange back at rear end of the Audi. Scott Bugner with 4.5 minutes to go. Hugging the inside line, trying to stay in the toe as much as he can. Run down towards Toyota corner, where's the braking point? Numerous 100-metre markers, or counting down from like 500 metres down to 100. And Potter again closes back up. He's running in the same way that it appears to be Jack Smith is, which is making up all that time through that section. There was a bit of a twitch of oversteer to that first right-hander. It just shows how hard that Potter is pushing. And that gap, likewise for the gap for the lead, both of them are staying at 4 tenths per second. So wherever you look, there's going to be a fight between these two pairs to the end. And the leaders have put a lap on Catherine Potter, but that might not matter too much more here because here comes Jack Smith again. Puts himself in the mirrors of Gibson, tries to take a tighter run through Firestone turn. That's a bit of an intimidation tactic just to try and sneak a move up the inside to force the mistake. And Gibson, who turns his way out of the hairpin again, 3.5 minutes plus change to go. They're going to get, I'd say, maybe 3 laps. Maybe 3 laps they might get here. We'll have to wait and see how much more is left in the tank after 2 more laps here. So possibly 3 more opportunities for Jack Smith to make it a double. But Gibson here is going to make it very difficult for him all the way to the flag where he can. Again, the last few laps, a couple of times the last few laps, I've seen Jack Smith close right in under braking into that fountain section. Not so much on this time as Thomas Potter looking around the outside of Scott Bugner. I admire the determination, I admire the attempt. He was always going to get squeezed out on the outside wall and corner exit from Scott Bugner, so he wisely backed out of it not to cause any more shenanigans going on. Potter continues to push and press and harry for third place, but Bugner still holding firm in the Audi. He wants to give an Audi a podium here from a circuit. Didn't seem as though the Audis are very fancy. The other 3 Audis in the mix, we don't have. Andy Carroll's not here, and I can't see. John Dickerson is there as well, and so is Kenny Press. So we've got 3 of the Audis in the top 10. I've had a couple of the other BMWs hit strife and trouble as well. Potter is in this race, but he's in the pit lane, so whatever issues he's had has not really been to his benefit. To the hairpin, really deep on the outside line, trying for that undercut hook through the hairpin for Thomas Potter. You can see here that the Bugner's not comfortable on the racing line. He's trying to shake the toe, because Potter is in the prime position here. He's looming large, he's closing quicker and quicker. Which direction does he go? He looks this time outside down towards Toyota. Bugner goes defensive. There's going to be last of the late breakers. They both hit the left-hand pedal together. And still Bugner holds firm. He's got now just under 2 laps to go to hold on to this place. But Potter is all over the back of the Audi trying to find a way through. And still no room at the end for Thomas here. Still no way through at this point. Bugner is defending as much as he can to try and make it work. I was going to think of a driver of the meeting as well for this one. There's been a couple of, I think, possible contenders. Maybe one that's slightly obvious, another one possibly, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm thinking over that in my mind as we come to the closing stages of this race. And the gap has continued. Oh, it's 7/10 of a second. I think it was that Potter slightly giving Bugner a bit of a love tap there through the right-hander onto Seaside Avenue. I think he's backed off slightly to acknowledge that that was a mistake. My bad. He's going to have to get closer again, though, if he wants to try and make that move on the last lap and keep on intimidating Bugner as much as he can. Head out through the right-hander at Firestone turn. Through the hairpin. Try to get a bit more punch off the corner, but the twitch of oversteer is not going to help Potter as he tries to keep on chasing for 3rd place. And this battle now, as the gap has gone out to, what's that now? That is about 0.9. No, it's just a fraction over a second. The time he lost coming out of the hairpin has only been to his detriment. So I wonder, unless he can find a second somewhere and then pass him on this last lap, it might well be a podium for the Audi if it stays as it is. And Potter's going to keep on pushing as hard as he dares. A little bit of oversteer, might have just ever slightly glanced the tyres on the exit of that roundabout section. I think Potter just trying to use all the road as much as he can, but he might be letting his frustration get a little bit too much to him. Meanwhile, for the lead, Jack Smith has got the headlights flashing. I'm not quite sure that's going to do anything, because Oliver Gibson, only for the last few corners, has got to hold on here for a first win of the season. To do it by holding off his old World GT Challenge Ferrari teammate, it's going to be something special here, unless there's one last banzai move here for Jack Smith to try and make it through. It's a slightly wider approach, but it's not going to be enough. Up to the checkered flag they will come. Oliver Gibson takes another race victory. I think that's now either 4th or 5th different winner in 6 races here in the championship. It is victory in race number 2 at Long Beach for Oliver Gibson, only 0.4 of a second ahead of Jack Smith in the end. And Scott Bugner, well, looks like he'll be unchallenged for 3rd place, because something looks like it's happened to Thomas Potter on the final lap. There is Thomas. He'll limp across the line to take 4th position. But another podium for the Audis. It is 3rd position for Scott Bugner in the end. Potter is going to be 4th, and Lee Pearcey will just be just behind him in 5th position. So impressive stuff from all around. Here comes Jack Dixon, who I think is going to be 6th, because Catherine Potter I don't think is actually in P6. It's a bit of a glitch with the Assetto Corsa software. She's a couple of places back, and I'd say about a lap down, or back down in 10th by the look of it. So 6th goes to Jack Dixon, 7th to Kenny Press. Looks like Rich Hayden will get 8th in the end. He had all sorts of events in that race. Managed to come across the line in 8th in the end. And John Jones will come through to take a 9th position. With Catherine Potter, I think, having already taken the flag, given that she was a lap behind, which is why she was a bit higher up in the standings initially, will pick up the final top 10 spot. And it's going to be Connor Potter, who pitted early on and is still in 11th place by the looks of it. So that was another race done and dusted for VRRC World Touring Cars. We're going to step aside very quickly for another message from our partners for the championship in VRRC. When we come back, we can hear the thoughts of our top 3 from race 2 at Long Beach. Stay tuned on the other side of these messages. We'll be back in a couple of moments. So, racing complete for Long Beach tonight. The third event of the season for VRRC Touring Cars is wrapped up. We're not quite done just yet. We do have, of course, our top 3 interviews in reverse order to go through from that second race. We're going to start, first of all, as we usually do, in reverse order with the third. Start with the man who is back in third once again. That is Scott Woodwiss again. Scott, congratulations on another third place. Again, another race where you had a lot of pressure from the cars around you and cars behind, but in the end it was Thomas giving you plenty of headaches in those last few laps until it looks like he seemed to have some kind of an issue or a mistake that saw him back off a little bit.
Yeah, no, it was carnage on the first couple of laps. I think Andy, I think he must have damaged his car, then he hit the wall and it slowed me down and I ended up hitting him. And I was like, oh no, they've got away already. But I knew I wouldn't have the pace of Ollie and Jack, and probably even Thomas, to be honest with you. So just holding them back and holding Thomas back as much as I could and making it as fair as I could was my would have been my ideal thing, which is what we did. And third's absolutely amazing. I'm really happy with that, especially on a track that I thoroughly didn't enjoy, but it was good in all. I think, like I said, the car didn't quite suit it. We suited certain corners, not others. So yeah, it was all good.
You managed to extract the most out of the Audi from the other cars that are also the other Audis in the field, which obviously is a bonus for you on top of that as well. Because now you're going back to Europe, we're going back to more of a traditional circuit. I think Portimao is now next on the circuit coming up now in Portugal. How do you think that the Audi will suit that circuit? Do you think it's going to be a bit more similar to somewhere like Brands Hatch, where the flowing nature it's going to suit the BMWs more, or there might be one or two slightly higher curbs or faster turns that might potentially suit the Audi a bit better? How do you see Portimao playing out next weekend?
I think it will probably be slightly more, I say equal, that's not the right word to say, but slightly closer. Like I said, Sector 2 and Sector 3, like today, we were kind of within a 10th or 2 tenths. It was just that first sector that I couldn't quite get any more time out of, which is, just fair enough. And but yeah, I think Portimao, I think it will be slightly closer. I think that the start will suit the BMW, but also the fast flowing corners will probably suit us. So I think it will definitely be a lot more even, and hopefully we can have this one. I say a drop round and such, but it wasn't actually about around 2/3. But yeah, we made the best out of a bad situation, and hopefully we can go to Portimao and Ollie can see the back of my car again.
You were hoping that for sure, coming next time out to Portimao. So a couple of third places, really strong results for the Audi, and of course on the circuit where you may figured it wasn't quite the circuit for the Audis, but still really good results. And fingers crossed you can carry that over to Portimao next time out. But if you can, congratulations, and we'll see you next time out.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Great stuff. Let's now move on to the man that took second. Didn't quite manage to make it happen on the last lap this time, given the good fortune he had, and that's Jack Smith. Jack, not quite able to take first on the last lap this time, but still, you having to push, I think, your old Ferrari teammate from World GT Challenge quite hard throughout that entire race, but he just had a little bit more legs on you towards the end of the checker flag.
I've been waiting for one of these races for so long. Me and Ollie haven't raced properly in, oh god, I don't even know, like a proper head-to-head race like that in ages. And it was like equal ballast and everything. So yeah, it was a fair win for Ollie there. He didn't make a mistake. In fact, he was like a couple tenths faster than me. I was struggling at the end to keep on, hit the wall a few times. But yeah, no, I'm actually super happy for Ollie for winning that one. I flashed my headlights on that final straight. I was just like, you can have it now. You've heard it now. So I just backed off and let him have it on that final lap. But yeah, no, I'm super happy with the results from this evening. And yeah, even though I didn't get a win, I'm not really too bothered about that. I think Ollie's done a mega job tonight. So yeah, I think he's definitely deserved this race 2 win for sure. He's driven the wheels off that BMW. So yeah, props to him.
A lot of praise for yourself as well, of course. You didn't get to win a second place just by taking it steady. You were pushing both Thomas in race 1 and then Oliver in race 2 as hard as you could. And it was always going to be a circuit where, naturally being a street circuit, overtaking was going to be tough and opportunities few and far between. So I think you've got a right to be pleased with those results. And of course, the key thing is also it's really good results for the championship. And as I've said so many times before, as they say, it's the days when you don't win races or the times you don't win races that can help you win championships. So I think it's obviously clear that even though you didn't get a win, second place is the next best thing, obviously. So it's still really solid points towards the championship tally as we head towards the half distance point.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing that's come to a realization for myself is now I know why Ollie went to the beach the other day. It's because he's been busy throwing them sandbags out the middle of that race. He's yeah, I don't know where that pace came from. He all of a sudden did the 2 personal best laps around the circuit. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, okay, yep, fair, here we go. So yeah, it was pretty full on for the entire thing. You know, I'm sweating right now. So, and I've got to do another hot lap from it straight after this. So yeah, it's gonna be a grim another half hour, I think, for me. But yeah, no, super happy with the results now. I'm sure Ollie is really happy, especially after that first race as well. It's the second race he needed, I think. So yeah, hopefully we can have a lot more battles for the rest of the season like that between me and Ollie, and yeah, hopefully we can have battles like that with everyone on the grid as well. That'd be mega, and then we can have a proper championship going towards the end of this season. It'd be really good. So yeah, looking forward to it.
We'll find out how Ollie feels in a second, but even so, as you said, really good results for the championship, good solid points. It means that if you can do the same again, at least mimic that at Portimao, you can go into the second half of the season with a really solid chance of adding a touring car title to your GT honours. But even so, good effort tonight, good pressure you put on for the cars in front of you, and as you say, now we go to Portimao, completely different circuit, and fingers crossed the fortunes are the same there. So well done, congratulations, and we'll see you this time next week. We see how you get on in Portugal.
Yeah, cheers, Scott, and just big thank you to all the broadcast team. I love watching the streams back every evening after we do a race. So yeah, very much looking forward to this one, and I'm sure you've all done a great job. So yeah, props to you guys.
Thank you very much. Likewise, congratulations. Well done. And so now we can move on to the man who I think we can say almost finally is in victory lane and finally had a chance to race with his teammate in Ferraris in the World GT Challenge. It is your race 2 winner for the first season. It's Ollie Gibson. So I'd say, is it safe to say you're more relieved than delighted with that victory, given that you finally got yourself up there and managed to have a good wheel-to-wheel battle of sorts with your long-term World GT Ferrari teammate?
Yeah, about time. I was so annoyed with myself after race 1. I completely missed it. I mean, we joke about me looking at the back of Scott's car, and that was the thing that put me off. I was looking at Scott, and then I looked at the brake marker, it said too late, and off I went in race 1. But yeah, race 2, just a bit lucky on the start, I think. And then obviously there was a few incidents that I just managed to sneak past, and then from there Jack was giving me a bit of a hard time. I don't want to do that ever again, but if it's good viewing, it's good viewing. So but yeah, happy to get one under my belt, and hopefully from now I can get some race 1s in as well, but just keep winning, hopefully. If they're all like that though, I might be a bit stressful at the end of the season.
Well, I mean, a win obviously is an important thing to get, particularly when you've got someone of Jack's calibre behind you as well. And obviously, you didn't have too much of a battle with back markers to deal with that Thomas had to for race 1. Was it tough trying to keep Jack behind, given knowing how quick he can be? And obviously, you've been in the same team together before in Ferraris and GTs. Was it tough knowing that you had Jack behind you, that you had to kind of just pretty much be almost inch perfect in every corner to try and keep him at bay?
Yeah, I never like seeing that car behind me. It's always a tricky one. Yeah, he's just so fast. Every lap is just so consistent. So you just really got to be on your A game the whole race, and it's so difficult. It's having Max Verstappen behind you. So, but yeah, luckily I just managed to get a few good laps in at the end, and it just shows that this track was really good. But yeah, I don't really know, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. It shows that all our practice works, and hopefully, as Jack said, we can have a few more. But I don't want one. That's all I'm going to say.
So I guess final question is now going to next week, back to a more conventional circuit with Portimao. Obviously, a very different animal to Long Beach. Lots of long flowing corners. Of course, it's being a Grand Prix and endurance racing circuit. It's a favourite for many. How do you think the challenge is going to be for Portimao, and how do you think the BMW is going to suit a circuit of that nature like Portimao with all its long corners and elevation changes? Do you think it's going to suit the car?
I think it might be a bit of a tricky one, only because I don't really like it. But I think the BMW, it'd probably be a bit close again. There's not really any massive curbs to hit. It's just more, I think, getting the power down, and the BMW is going to be tricky. You know, lots of elevation and things like that. So hopefully it's a smooth track though. That's all I'm going to say, because the Tour, what's this track called? Long Beach. It's so bumpy, so you get on the power and the back end's straight out. So hopefully it's not too bumpy and there's not too many curbs. Otherwise, the BMW should be all right. I just need to get my practice in because I'm really slow around there.
Well, congratulations on the victory. I know it was very hard fought keeping Jack at bay, so well done on making it happen finally at last, which was long awaited. And all being well, fingers crossed you can do the same again at Portimao next week. So go get practicing, and we'll see you for Portimao next week.
Yeah, cheers.
Good stuff. And with that, we're going to sign off our third event of the season for VRRC World Touring Cars. Another great racing around the streets of the circuit. And of course, as well, we should mention the fact he did get his first win as well, holding off Jack Smith. Driver of the round also goes to Oliver as well. So congratulations to Oliver for taking that too as well. Deserved after keeping the man who's leading the championship at bay. As you mentioned, we're now heading away from America, now back to continental Europe, and for another double header on the continent, which is now going to be the Autodromo Internacional Algarve, or Portimao as it's well known, has been the venue of the Portuguese Grand Prix and MotoGP and endurance racing and all sorts over the last few years. Now the VRRC World Touring Cars will get their chance to tackle the circuit. This time next week on the 6th of August. And this is you see the circuit there in the background, which they'll be tackling the Algarve Sunshine, fingers crossed. Well, thanks for watching for everyone that has been watching. Again, best wishes to Becky, who couldn't join me in commentary tonight due to be falling a little bit ill. So fingers crossed she is making a speedy and full recovery, and hopefully we'll see her very soon. And shout out to her. It'd be good to see her in the box if she is back in time, fighting fit for Algarve next time. For myself, Scott Woodwiss, on behalf of Rich Hayden of VRRC and everyone here, the championship and all of our partners and sponsors, thank you for watching, and join us this time next week when we hit the halfway point of the championship with round 4 on the Autodromo Internacional Algarve Portimao in Portugal for more VRRC touring car action. But until then, take care, and we will see you in 7 days time for round number 4. Take care, bye for now.
Between the two of them, the inside of Coates, Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.